Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Is food and/or sugar addiction real? Today, we're going to be examining this question with my favorite creator on Instagram, Fierce Fatty. I'm guessing she's going to say, of course it's real, just like an addiction to any other thing. There's no way she's going to say that it doesn't even exist. To properly examine this question, we must first apply comb to mustache. This is the first time you're going to hear me say this, but those glasses are dope. Wear those to a rave, dude? Hell yeah. Alright, sorry. Let's go.
Is food or sugar addiction real? So if you think about food all the time and maybe you count down the minutes until you can eat again, or you have a preference for foods that you label as bad or sugar-filled or unhealthy, this can feel really distressing and can feel like we're addicted.
Okay, so if you think about food all the time and you worry about the content of food and this and that and da-da-da, it can be really distressing and can feel like we're addicted. Yes, being obsessed with food and thinking about it all the time sure can feel like an addiction. Somehow, though, you're going to say that it's not, aren't you? Don't you try to pull a fast one on me, Fierce Fatty. Don't you try to say that it's not an addiction.
Like there's something really wrong with us. However, there isn't any evidence to show that what happens in our brains is addiction in the same way as other substances.
Bruh. You sure about that? Oh yeah? You sure it doesn't hit on all the same dopamine receptors and all this? You understand that pleasurable activities all activate similar parts of the brain, even some that don't involve intaking any sort of substance. Like yanking it, that releases feel-good chemicals in your brain, and it's fine to yank it sometimes, but if you do it all the time, it can be a problem. And therein lies the difference between someone who just eats a little bit and enjoys it, or somebody who drinks a little bit or uses a little bit of whatever drug, and somebody who just completely goes off the rails with it. The difference is the frequency with which you're doing it, the amount that you're doing it, and why you're doing it. I consider only two criteria necessary to determine if you have an addiction. 1. Are you partaking in some sort of behavior or substance that is harming your life? 2. Have you tried to quit that thing and are struggling? What else do you need? This can apply to anything. You could be addicted to looking at pictures of waterfalls, dude. Looking at pictures of waterfalls here and there is cool, but if you are just completely obsessed with it, and you're leaving in the middle of class to go look at pictures of waterfalls or whatever, you're just doing weird stuff. It's interfering with your regular life, the same way that eating too much food or doing too many drugs and or alcohol interfere with your life, then you might have a problem. Yanking it sometimes is fine, but if your dominant hand is twice as buff and big as your non-dominant hand, you might have a problem.
Our reward centers in our brains do light up, but they are the same ones that light up when we hug someone we love, or we watch a funny video, or we see a cute puppy.
Bruh. Oh, so the thing that you like to do is actually similar to a hug or seeing a cute puppy. Unlike all those dirty junkies who, when they do their substance, it lights up a different part of their brain. It doesn't light up the same part of your brain like when a family member's giving you a hug when you take a shot of heroin, right? Or does it? Alright, so what you're trying to say is the thing that you choose to go off the rails with is completely fine, and it's actually more akin to seeing a puppy or hugging a loved one. But substances that other people choose to partake in, which are also chemical in nature and interact with your brain in a similar way, are for disgusting gutter junkies who belong in the streets. Gotcha. For anybody who's ever been in recovery or whatever from drug addiction, have you ever been looked down on by someone who is obese? They're like, oh my god, look at that nasty junkie. I can't believe they let themselves go.
And the big reason why people feel addicted to sugar, because we really can feel addicted to sugar or food,
is because of the chemical reactions that happen in your brain and your pancreas and your liver and the gut microbiome that changes the way you think and feel and behave? Is that why? Or does it feel addicting because after you get a blood sugar spike, you get a blood sugar crash, so you need more of that very strong addictive substance? Is that why it feels like an addictive substance? Because it literally does all the same things that addictive substances do and is an addictive substance? That might make it feel like one. You know when it feels like you're doing cocaine? Because you are doing cocaine? Yeah, it could feel that way.
Is one, they are restricting that food or sugar.
It's not the chemical reactions that are happening in your brain and your insulin level. What are you talking about, dude? This stuff changes the way that you behave because of the way that it affects your insulin and blood sugar levels and gut microbiome. I don't expect somebody who is currently in the throes of their addiction to have a clear or level head when it comes to these matters. It's very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're currently struggling and in the middle of your addiction, but I can assure you, Fierce Fatty, that struggling with food and or sugar addiction is literally the same exact thing as any other drug. In fact, it's more difficult because the drug that you're addicted to is available everywhere and it's hidden. It's secretly in all kinds of food all around us. Sugar, it's in there on purpose because it's addictive and it's a chemical and you are addicted to it. Can you imagine if they snuck cocaine into everything and you had to go around reading the labels just to make sure there wasn't cocaine in this thing, dude? We'd really be partying then, son. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do cocaine.
Or two, they actually have an eating disorder.
Oh, so it can feel like you're addicted to sugar because you have an ED. What? So you're not really addicted to it, and it is not really addictive. It has no chemical properties that make it addictive. It doesn't affect your body in the same way as addictive chemicals. You just have an ED. Oh, I'm not addicted to this substance that I can't stop freaking thinking about, and I have trouble consuming how much of it I put into my body. I just have disordered thought patterns or a restrictive ED. And the only way to combat that is just go completely off the rails eating sugar and whatever other kind of junk food. The only way to fight a restrictive ED is with an overconsumptive ED. Remember, I made up the word overconsumptive. It's a thing now, dude. Spread it. Spread that sucker.
And for both scenarios, the food addiction symptoms will decrease and hopefully disappear when we fully, physically and mentally allow ourselves those things into our lives.
So the symptoms from the food addiction, which isn't real by the way, it just feels that way. You're wrong. You actually have an ED. The symptoms from that will go away when you just allow that sugar and that junk food into your life and embrace it. I feel like I have no control when I'm eating. I always choose the wrong foods, and then when I start eating it, I just can't stop, and then I feel completely like garbage, physically and mentally later that day, and I don't know what to do. Alright, here's what you gotta do. Just give in. Just eat whatever you want. Don't feel bad about it. Eat whatever sugar you want. Eat whatever food you want. What? I said I'm having trouble controlling all these urges and stuff. You're telling me I should just roll with it no matter how bad it makes me feel? Oh, I see. Wait, no, I don't. This is completely moronic.
That sugar, that food. And that's a big difference with substance addiction. The opposite happens. So the more substances are actually addictive that you have in your life, the more you consume them, those addictive feelings increase because they are actually addictive.
They don't increase when you partake in your sugar or food addiction, though. I see. So when you feel all these addictive behaviors in relation to food and or sugar, and then you partake and give in to those feelings, the feelings will not increase. They will decrease. Your cravings for sugar will slowly go away over time if you just keep giving into it every time you feel it. Oh, that's the difference. Because when you do drugs, the more you do, the more you want to do. Unlike sugar. When you do sugar, you eat some sugar on Monday, and then, I'm good for the rest of the month. I won't have a Starbucks sugary drink every single day of the week from here on out for the rest of my life or anything. And then keep on increasing that every single day like a heroin addict chasing the dragon.
Whereas with food, with sugar, the more access we have to it, those addiction feelings decrease.
What? What? Where the fuck are you getting this from? Where the hell is she getting any of this from? So with other drugs, the more you do them, the more you'll want to do them. They are addictive, dum-dum. But with sugar and food, the more you do it, You don't want to do it anymore. People don't just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you need to get a crane to remove them from their house. People only get to a certain level of morbidity as an obese person, and then they're like, all right, I'm good. And then they just start shrinking back on down, and then they grow back up to that size and shrink back on down. I love to laugh at the ridiculous things that Fierce Fatty says, but she says them often with such conviction that it really startles me and alarms me. Does she write all these pieces herself? There's always all these little graphics and presentations going along and stuff. This is like an alcoholic going to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting and trying to dunk on heroin addicts because his substance is better and not addictive in the same exact way as yours. Yeah, I'm actually not on any sort of narcotics at all. I'm actually addicted to alcohol. Unlike you losers. Look at these morons. The drug that you do is for absolute losers. Oh man, I'm gonna go beat my wife. Unlike you losers who don't beat anyone because you're too busy sleeping.
The more we allow ourselves, and that's a big difference between something that's actually addictive and something that just feels addictive.
Here's a pro tip. If something feels addictive, there's a reason your brain is sending you those signals and telling you, hey, this feels addictive. Your brain is trying to warn you. It's like, yo, this thing is fun. In fact, it's too fun. We might enjoy doing it so much that it could destroy our lives. We might put everything else on hold just to pursue this one thing, so let's distance ourselves from it. And that's my advice for all of you. If you ever happen to do some kind of drug and you're just like, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing ever, distance yourself from it immediately. Get it away from you, dude.
So no, food or sugar addiction isn't real, but it can really feel like it when we restrict ourselves.
Okay, so food and sugar addiction just straight up isn't real, but it can feel real when we restrict ourselves. So you're trying to protect yourself behind the shield of restrictive EDs like the others. You're not addicted to that, dog. You only feel that way because you keep trying to restrict, despite the fact that you are obese. If any of you are watching that kind of stuff and it's making you feel good about the body that you don't feel like changing, turn it off right now. You're better than that, and you can do anything you put your mind to. I've got a bonus clip from Fierce Fatty that should lighten the mood a bit. She's going to talk about different things that she used to do to try to make herself look smaller.
I listed out all the ways that I used to do things like wear plain clothes, but my ways for trying to hide my fatness were really weird, like wearing shoes, like trainers that were 2 sizes too big to try and balance out my body, like because if I had big feet, then I would look thin.
So you've always been delusional.
Or eating with a teaspoon instead of a normal spoon, because
eating with a teaspoon instead of a normal spoon. That would make you look larger, my friend. What the heck? So you've always lacked the ability to grasp simple logic. You thought that holding a smaller spoon in your hand would make you appear smaller or dainty. Bruh, you're making your hand look all big. Having a tiny spoon is gonna make your hand look all gargantuan. It's like when Fat Arky was talking about speaking softly to try to appear smaller. Hey guys, so it's just me with my little teaspoon being small and my gigantic shoes.
If I had a teaspoon, I'd look really dainty and thin.
How about you might look bigger in comparison because it's a smaller spoon? Dude, you got it all backwards. You should have used a large spoon to make yourself look smaller in comparison. Duh. I am tiny. She's got that pose going right now like she's gonna sprinkle the salt on the steak.
What? Imagine like me walking around with my big clown shoes with my tiny teaspoon and all the other things that I was doing to try and disguise myself.
I am getting a hilarious mental image of this. Her wearing like some big brown boots and like a black trench coat, walking around with a teaspoon. Like, instead of walking normally, she's like walking around on her tiptoes to try to appear dainty.
Because I was so in pain from living in a fat body.
Well, you know, there's only one way to get rid of the pain of living in a fat body. And no, I'm not saying this. I'm saying to lose the weight, gosh darn it. You guys are sick. You're really dark, man.
And now I can, eat my food with a ladle. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, that would actually make sense for making you look smaller in comparison. Why would you look smaller if you're holding a tiny spoon? Your hand looks like frickin' Jack and the Beanstalk now. It's pretty sad, honestly, that she used to do all these things to try to not appear overweight or this or that. And now she's fallen down the rabbit hole so far that she thinks that if you feel out of control or addicted to food in any way, shape, or form, you actually have a restrictive ED, or some sort of ED. So therefore, in her mind, proper diet and exercise is off the table forever. Those are restrictive behaviors. Also, the drug that I'm addicted to is so much better than the rest of you. I'm not a loser like the rest of you people that are doing real drugs. My drug is like a hug from a family member or looking at a cute puppy, unlike the rest of you losers in the gutter. Anyway,
so I look good. It's a lot of water weight. The Cynical Dude. Oh. Peasants. This is very embarrassing. I kind of want to check out his Instagram real quick. Okay. Just a dude being cynical.
That about does it. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.